Testing. Are the lips working? Blah, 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 blah.
No. Hey, speaking of working.
Yes.
You know about the famous philosopher Karl Marx. Like everyone knows about Karl Marx.
Well, yes.
Yeah, of course. But not many people know about his sister Anya, who is the inventor of the starting pistol.
Okay.
Not many know about that.
Oh, Anya Marx.
Yeah. So not many.
Oh, well, I think with that, we should probably get rolling on the podcast. What do you say?
I say
rolling,
poppin'.
This is Barely Furcasting, featuring Taebyn, an Injured Nerves audio production. Well, hello, and Moobarkfluff to all our listeners in the Podiverse. I am Barely Normal, your co-host Bear, in a squeaky chair. I don't know if you can hear the squeaky chair. And with me is that maven of mayhem, that host with the most, the pup of the hour, the talk of the town, Taebyn.
Oh, my fluff. If I am the talk of the town, then we are in a very boring town, let me tell you.
It's a very small town.
It's a very small town. The population, me, I guess. Anyway, yes, thank you for having me back. Barely. It has been a few weeks.
Well, it's been a week. Yeah.
Oh, a week.
It's just
right,
a week.
Counting.
Yeah.
That's right. My posies have trouble
week.
counting sometimes, right?
Yeah. Well,
right.
Small towns, I grew up kind of grew up in a small town here in Sublimity. When we moved there was only 500 people in the town.
Oh, wow.
And we all had to take turns being the town drunk.
Did you take like most of the turns or?
No, once a month it was my turn to be the town drunk.
Oh, really?
It was my turn to be the town, because I was only 14, so it was my turn to be the town delinquent.
Oh, nice. And I'm sure you did a great job with that.
Every 20th day it was my turn to be the town delinquent. Yeah. So
nice.
So welcome back. I hope that everything went well with where you were at.
Yeah, I did it. And I know all you furs had an amazing time with Barely and Lemnius last week. And so sorry I have to replace Lemnius. Write us in. I'm always asking furs to write us in. Write us in and tell us how much you loved Lemnius taking over for the show and how sad you are that I am back. Bark, bark.
Or how sad you are that Lemnius had to take over for you.
Yes, that is an option too. Let us know your thoughts.
Option 1 or option 2? It's like the eye doctor. 1, 2.
Exactly.
1.
There is no other
2.
until you pick.
Yeah. It's like, can I have 3? No.
No,
okay. Anyway,
not yet.
So our weekly challenge, our weekly challenge this week for the furs is to put on your fursuit and go visit a retirement home.
Oh, that is so possum. I love that idea. That would just be like so great and uplifting and sunny. Yeah, every fur, go do that. And then like make a video or pictures or something and send them in and show us. We'd love to see that.
Absolutely. That would be great.
That'd be great. Speaking of challenges, Barely.
Yes.
I have a second level pun challenge to you.
Okay, I'm not very good at these. My history is this, so give it a shot. I'll try and give it a shot. Okay.
So I tried to make this one a little bit easier for you, just because these things are hard. If some fur were to throw one at me, I probably couldn't get it. So for any fur that's out there that doesn't know, I talked about this. I came up with 3 or 4 episodes ago, the idea of a second level pun. And this is where you have a statement, which is the beginning of a pun, and then a second, like the answer to that, which is the answer to another pun, and that other pun is what's in between, and that in between connects them via 2 puns. And I gave a few examples a few weeks, so I won't give another example now, because here's an example for Barely, see if he gets it, and I'll say the answer when we're done to see if he gets it. But so the statement goes like this: time flies like an arrow. Why? Because he could only yellow. And as a statement, that's like, what? Taebyn is on, what are you drinking, Taebyn? But that's the second level pun part. So Barely, for you, what do you think? Time flies like an arrow. Why? Because he could only yellow.
Okay, so the original pun is time flies. Is it a fruit fly?
There's a fruit fly involved. Yes.
Okay, so the original pun, because we've said this a couple of times on the podcast, time flies like an arrow, but fruit flies like a banana.
Yes.
So you get the banana, and the banana is yellow, So the fruit fly is yellow. The second level I can't get.
Can't get.
I can't.
But that's
a
so
yellow
awesome.
fruit fly. Yeah.
You yellow fruit fly. You got 100% better than last time, so that's actually awesome.
Okay.
Right, exactly. The explanation is time flies like an arrow, fruit flies like a banana, like you said.
Right.
Then from there, fruit flies like a banana. The fruit fly wondered why the banana couldn't yell as high as him. It's because he could only yellow. And that's how it all goes. Yeah.
Because he could only yell low.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So that's how it goes, and there it is. Anyway.
But
you got half of that. That's really great.
I got half.
And
I got half. Half is better than none.
Half is much better than none. And speaking of half, for some reason.
Yes.
So in India, there's a place named Mumbai. And what do you think about that?
I don't know what Mum should buy. We've said this before on many occasions. What did Mum buy? I don't know. She bought groceries.
Okay. So Mumbai seems to be a little bit of a trigger word for you. So I was thinking how much of a trigger could get this time, but it didn't trigger as much as last time, but it did trigger a little bit. So that's good. There's a good trigger level there.
Is that it? Is that the whole story?
That's all I wanted to do with that.
Oh, you just wanted to see if I would trigger. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to do. I mean, it's been a week. It's like I figured I might as well. Now, barely.
Yes.
So I have to, so disclaimer for this episode, like it's been like, I wasn't here last week. So I've been like saving up things.
He's all pent up with his puns and jokes.
Yes, that is so... Barely just got it 110% on the nosy, meaning that most of what I say you can assume is not true. The math will be true and the media will be true, but other than that,
your guess is as good as anyone else's.
Yeah,
any fur else's.
It's even more off the fluff than usual. So the next thing so that means I have another thing. The next thing I have for you is I have a joke for you.
A joke? Okay.
Yeah, believe it or not. And this joke it's an old joke apparently that I didn't know. So you might actually know this one. So I'll just tell it, and maybe all of you furs out there haven't heard it, but I'll just start telling you the joke. So, it was a small plane. Sounds like the beginning of was it Life and Times of Raven the Edward Scissorhands? Or no, it was a small plane. Okay. I don't know. It sounds like a horrible novel. Anyway, it starts out, it was a small plane. It only seated 8 passengers. The engines began sputtering about an hour into the flight, and the pilot turned to his passengers and said, "There are 8 of you and only 8 parachutes on board. I have one for myself. You'll have to decide who gets the other 7. On the plane, there was a Boy Scout, an old doctor, 2 ladies, a married couple, where did they mail them? A married couple, their child, and a man. Those are the 7 other people on board, or the 8 other people on board. So the man grabbed a rig from the overhead rack, stuck his arms through the straps and said, "I am the smartest man in the world. I just can't die." He opened the door and jumped. The others looked at each other, and the old doctor said, "Well, I'm 80 years old, and I've lived a full life. You can all have the rest of the parachutes." The Boy Scout said, "No need. The smartest man in the world just jumped out with my backpack." And that's how that goes.
And that's how that goes. Yeah, you never want to do things like that. Be sure that you know what it is before you strap it on your back.
Unless you're the smartest man in the world, then it doesn't matter, apparently.
It doesn't matter. He'll probably figure out a way to make it work as a parachute on the way down.
Hopefully. Oh, and I have a small test for you, Barely.
Oh, wow. You're you are really pent up. I mean, I
have been so pent up. And some of these things, it's like, I've got too many, so I've delayed them to next week. But
Mumbai.
Yep, probably. So the test for you is how stantial?
Sub.
That will work. I will accept that.
Okay.
I will actually accept that. That is great. I mean, I had in mind circum, but that's fine. No.
Yeah.
I was afraid you were going to say substantial. And it's like, no, the answer is sub. You remember. This is
or circum.
Yeah. Or circum. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So as I told Lem last week, you know what the roundest knight at the table was?
I do, because we've been over this before. But I want you to let all us listeners know.
Oh, that would be circumference.
Yes.
Yes. Da 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 da. Anyway, those crickets, I can hear them in the background. So we're going to go up to the past today, and I want to give a running total on our two cities that are in competition for listening to our podcast the most.
San Jose and Ohio. No, Columbus, Ohio.
San Jose and Columbus, Ohio. San Jose is in the lead again by 15 listens.
15? I think Ohio was in the lead by, 3 or something last time.
They were, and now they have fallen behind by 15. So come on, Columbus, you got to you got to step up to the plate.
Let your Frankfurters know they got to listen. I love this because this is like, I wonder if they're actually in competition with each other, and this would be so cool and fun that we've like engaged the community like this, and we're like doing a community thing. See who quarantine, hey, whatever, who needs that? We can still have a good time. All you furs, at least in San Jose and Columbus.
Absolutely correct. So last week with Lem, Cam
was a great guy, but he had to go for a minute.
He had to go, so we went with Lem. So we had a discussion about the term Karen, and when you listen to the podcast, you will notice that we had discussion about Karens. And, the meme is, they're being a Karen, and everybody knows what that means. However, nobody knows where the origin came from.
I actually have been wondering about this. Were you able to find it?
It's couched in mystery.
Ooh, we have a mystery couch.
Yeah. So the term has come to mean, of course, any white female or any female who's acting like they're entitled. And it's very foggy. The interweb has several theories as to the proliferation and acceptance of the term. And it's going back as far as 2004 when Dane Cook did a routine on HBO. He had talked about, in a group, there's always that one girl. Her name was usually Karen, who thinks she's entitled to everything. So some people think that it might be that. But the first time that it was mentioned in the Urban Dictionary was way up not until 2018.
Oh, okay.
When it was tied to the Amy Cooper incident of calling the police on the black man in Central Park. And she called the police on a black man, and she actually had a video of herself saying, I'm going to call the police and tell them that I'm being attacked by a black man. When in fact, all this guy did was ask her to put her dog on a leash because it was in a leashed area.
I remember that. Yes. Okay. Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah.
Totally remember.
Right. So that's kind of where that got tied to that. And somebody mentioned that she was being a real Karen about it. So being a Karen is usually tied to lower stakes situations like getting the wrong meal at Applebee's, or maybe not having enough lunch meat at the counter, or, you spelt my name wrong on my Starbucks cup. But some get rather racist and violent.
Yeah.
And, when I see Karens being a Karen, I just kind of simply laugh and shake my head and walk away. And what's really odd is all the Karens that I know are super nice. They are not Karens in the decision of their name.
The people that have the name Karen.
The name Karen. Okay. Yeah, they're very super nice. I mean, it's like, this is Karen, blah, 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 and she's a great person. Great person.
Interesting.
That's the past today from me. Do you have anything? Have you listened to any of our past podcasts that you want to comment on?
Yes. And before I do, pause the recording so I can refill my pod.
We'll be right back after this short interlude. And we're back from that short interlude. Thank you, Ray Banana and his bunch.
Yes. Oh, he flew
Music
away like that fly.
Ray Banana and his bunch. Music with appeal.
Oh, I see what you did there. It's very true too.
It's the bananas are appealing.
They are. They're very, especially when you have to eat it. I mean, that's the only way to do it. Oh
Just
yeah, but
eat it.
anyway, the past today, I have just a few things. So we've talked several times before. I think it started with Pepper Coyote mentioned the left shark thing, and then a few weeks later, I mentioned it and everything. I just have to give another shout out to Left Shark and Right Palm Tree.
Right palm tree. Yes.
Yes, it's just so good. It's so good. So all you furries, if you haven't seen, just do YouTube for Katy Perry Left Shark, and you'll get it. It's the Super Bowl halftime thing, I think.
Super Bowl halftime show from 2008?
Long time ago, yeah. And Left Shark is so great, especially if you compare Left to Right Shark. And then make sure you watch it again and check out Right Palm Tree. It's so good. Anyway,
he's having so much fun.
He's doing such a great job.
It's having so much fun.
We don't know if it's they are having so much fun. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Right Palm Tree does he's just into it. They're just into it and doing it, and it's good. Anyway, go watch. Season 2, episode 11 from our show.
Yes.
Moritz came on 5 Minute First.
Yes.
And he said he was going back home east in the next week or something, and would report back on the barking pineapples from back east. Now, did he ever do that?
He has not. So Moritz, if you're listening, we know you're listening. You need to call in and report back on the barking pineapples
from the East Coast, because they're different than the West Coast, and we've got to know.
We got to know.
You said you would. Okay, good. Caught up on that. Going back a few episodes, season 2, episode 9. That's when I'm just all over the count. Well, it's been a whole extra week, so I've got.
I know. You had time to listen and critique the things.
I have. So on season 2, episode 9, in the math, that's when I talked about the fractals, and I mean, just the only comment is I thought that went well. I thought we both had a really good time with the fractals, and it went well. Did. So if you want to hear more, say that again.
It was fractaculous.
It was so fractaculous. So any further, go back and listen to season 2, episode 9, that math episode, and I help you draw a few fractals and talk about.
Yes, you do.
Talk about some properties of them. And the joke section, and that, I always love the joke section. I mean, which is the entire podcast, but
pretty much the podcast, yes.
The particular really bad joke section at the end, it was like really good too. So shout out to season 2, episode 9. Also on season 2, episode 9.
Yes.
This was the episode after you got back from Tennessee.
Yes.
And just before 5 Minute Furs, you started telling a story about the iPad and Apple store. But then a fur came in. Well, I don't know who it was, but a fur came in and interrupted, and then we never finished it. So do you happen to remember your story about the iPad and Apple? I don't even remember there was something that brought it up, and I don't remember.
I don't even remember. All I know is that my iPad is dying. And they can't replace it. So the follow-up is I went in to have them replace the iPad because it's like, hey, I paid for this. You carry it on and you have your warranty, and I paid for the extended blah, blah, blah. And so that was in June of this year. June.
Oh, okay.
And just 2 weeks ago, the Apple store called me and said, so we can't replace your iPad because it's too old. Now it's the iPad Pro first generation. So it's the first generation iPad Pro.
That's a while ago. Yeah.
Not the first generation iPad, but the first generation iPad Pro.
Oh,
so it's like
okay.
It's like 5 generations in of the iPad. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well then replace the battery. Oh, we can't do that. What do you mean you can't do that? It's like, well, and we could give you an iPad Air for the price that we would have charged you for the iPad replacement that we're gonna get for you. And I said, okay, well, what do I get from that? And I said, well, first of all, it's smaller. I said, I don't want smaller. I like the 12-inch iPad Pro. That's why I have it.
Good sign, yeah.
Yeah.
Good size, I mean.
Well, that one's, the iPad Air, it's got a better screen and it's got better this and better that. And I was like, yeah, but it's only a 10-inch screen.
But it's only I want the 12-inch. Those inches make, even 1 inch makes a big difference. I know
it does make a big difference. Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, so then I found out that they're actually selling refurbished next generation iPad. Or the iPad Pro first generation, they're selling refurbished ones.
Oh,
for like $600. Oh, and so I called the Apple store and I said, so you can't replace mine, but you can sell them as refurbished
for $600.
For $600. And I said, why can't you just get me one of those? Oh, well, that's an entirely different system, sir. That's not the repair system. That's the retail system. And I said, okay, so call them and say, give me one and transfer it over on the books. If Tim Cook called you and said, hey, I need a new iPad Pro, that first generation, I'm sure you'd find one for him. But I guess I'm not Tim Cook. So
apparently not. Wow.
So just today in the mail, yesterday or 2 days ago, I ordered from a third party a new battery, instructions on how to take the iPad apart and replace the battery, and all the tools to do so.
Is it one of those where the battery's like fused in, and so you have to use a heat gun to
you have to use a heat gun to open up the thing.
Yeah.
Then you slide it open, and then then everything, all the innards sit on top of the battery. So you have to take off the screen, you have to unscrew the screen, unscrew the motherboard, unscrew the speakers, and then you can take the battery out. Then you can put the new battery in, and then you got to put everything back in. And you have to put it in the same order that you took it out, or the computer will not recognize it.
I believe that.
The experiment, I don't know if I'll do it this week or if I'll do it next week, but I will report back on whether the new battery took, whether I was able to repair it without damaging my iPad Pro.
Definitely. And so all you furs, this next week I will be excited to hear, and this would be good info for all you furs out there that might be having the same troubles, if it's actually worth it, because Barely's going to go through the trouble of finding out if it's worth it.
So one of the tools that you had to buy is called a spudger.
A spudger? What is a spudger, I must ask?
It's a plastic tool that has a really thin little tiny thin spatula that you stick between the casing and the screen, and you move it along, and it separates it from the heat from the tape. And then, of course, I had to order new tape, so when I put it back together, I have to put the tape back in there, seal it, and then with the heat gun. So we shall see how this all works. Stay tuned. Same bat time, same bat channel.
I'm excited to hear. I'm sorry for your loss.
My loss, yes. Well, if it doesn't work out, then I'll just go buy a new one. What the hell?
Yeah. But you have lost all that time.
I know. Well, yeah. So anyway. So what else do you have? Or is that it?
That is it. That is my past today for this week.
Okay.
Although.
Yes.
No, go ahead, because I think you're going to say what I'm going to say.
Well, I see where you made a note that you wanted to say a news item before we get to the news.
Yes.
So, what is that news item, Mr. Taebyn?
Well, because it's not a furries in the news thing, but
right.
And I mean, So I'll just say, remember how I said that everything I say, pretty much,
is a lie.
Mostly, is not like. So here is a quote unquote news item. In fact, 2 news items. That's just crazy and exciting. It's in the news, and you can read all about it.
Yeah. Extra, read all about it.
Go to CNN, and you will hear about these stories. So the first story is that, now that I say all that, you're just going to realize that a family of hillbillies from way back in the hills
Way back in the hills.
Total news story, right? I'm not leading up to a joke or anything. So I read this news article where a family of hillbillies way back in the hills, and it was so far back in the hills that their zip code was EIEIO. But so they're way back there. And so one day they visited the big city because they heard all about this big city and they wanted to know. It sounded awesome. They wanted to know what it's like. So they went to the big city and they marveled at all the strange and humongous things they saw. It was amazing. They'd never even heard of these things. They never even imagined all that they saw. So they went into a very tall building to explore. And in this building, they watched a little old lady hobble across the entryway and into a small room that had sliding doors. And the sliding doors closed. And a couple minutes later, a very attractive young lady emerged. And at that moment, the hillbilly man turned to his sons and said, "Go fetch her ma." True story.
True story. Yeah.
I have another true story.
Okay, let's hear it.
It apparently happened to me. Apparently now I have a farm because this happened on my farm. I'm in the news with my farm.
Ladies and furmen, he's full of it tonight. Full of it tonight, I tell you.
I tell you. So in the news, there apparently I got a farm, and there's a story about me how a DEA officer stopped at my farm yesterday, and he said, "I need to inspect your farm for illegal activity." Very, very stern, rough fellow.
Stern, rough.
I'm just a pup, rough. Why are you being all stern at me? But so I said, okay, but just don't go into that field over there. And the DA officer, he verbally exploded, saying, "Mr. Pup, I have the authority of the federal government with me." Reaching into his rear pants pocket, the arrogant officer removed his badge and shoved it in my face. "See this badge? This badge means I am allowed to go wherever and whenever I wish on this land. No questions asked or answers given. Have I made myself clear? Do you understand?" Ooh, this was a tough one. This is why it made the news, because it was
very intense.
Such an intense, not in apartments, but intense.
Yes, it's a pup tense.
It's a pup tense, in fact. So, of course, I nodded politely, apologized, and went about my chores. A short time later, I heard screams. I looked up and saw the DEA officer running for his life. He was being chased by my big old mean bull. With every step, the bull gained ground on the officer, and it seemed likely that he'd sure enough get gored before he reached to safety. The officer was clearly terrified. I threw down my tools. I ran to the fence and yelled at the top of my lungs, "Your badge! Show him your badge!" And that's my news story.
The news story that's not a news. Well, actually, something else I read in the news today, which really isn't furries in the news. So I'll bring it out to you because we're talking about these things. There was researchers for the Massachusetts Turnpike Authority recently found over 200 dead crows near the greater Boston area. And there was some concern that they may have died from avian flu. So they called in a bird pathologist, and they examined the remains of all the crows. And to everyone's relief, confirmed that the problem was definitely not avian flu. The cause of death appeared to be vehicular impacts. However, during the detailed analysis, it was noted that varying colors of paints appeared on the bird's beaks and claws.
Paints,
yeah. So by analyzing these paint residues, it was determined that 98% of the crows had been killed by impact with trucks, while only 2% were killed by impact with a car.
Okay.
So the Massachusetts Turnpike Authority then hired an ornithological behaviorist. That's a guy that studies the behaviors of birds.
Birdies.
Yes. To determine if there was a cause for the disproportionate percentage of truck kills versus car kills. He very quickly concluded the cause. When crows eat roadkill, they always have a lookout crow in a nearby tree to warn them of impending danger. and they discovered that while all the lookout crows could easily shout caw, not a single one could shout truck.
Truck. See, exactly. They are so smart.
They're so smart.
Except
for 2% of them.
Smart to an extent.
Yeah, exactly. So Moritz learned to yell truck. All right.
Because we don't want to lose you, Moritz. So
That's right. Okay.
Oh, Fluff. Oh, well, my cow.
I have a Fluffster's abridged dictionary entry for today.
You do?
I do. It's floof spores. Floof spores. These are the little bits of fur you find all over your hotel room after a con.
We've experienced this, yeah.
I know
where this came from.
Right.
There's at FC 2018 or something we discovered this, yes.
That's right. All over the hotel room was floof spores, and if you let them proliferate, you'll get little tiny versions of the fur that spawned them. So, you want to sweep them up and make sure you flush them down the toilet so that you don't get like little tiny versions of Taebyn or little tiny versions.
We don't want little Taebyns.
Much like Groot on Defenders of the Galaxy, or Guardians of the Galaxy. Little tiny Groot.
Well, I mean, Groot's okay. The Taebyn, no, we don't want that.
We don't. Little tiny Taebyns running around. Boy, that would be. That'd be a heck of a con. Yeah.
That'd be a heck of a fluff right there.
That's right. So floof spores. That's what those are. All right.
That's at least a half a CEU. Right there.
At least half. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Nice.
So listen to 2 more episodes and you get the other. Well, that'd be half. That'd be 1.5. Why do I say 2? I don't know. Anyway. So at this point, our mailbag, I want to welcome our new Patreon supporter.
Wow.
Yeah, we have a new Patreon supporter, Cano A. Pander. So welcome and thank you for listening to our podcast and supporting us through Patreon.
Yes, Cano A. Pander. Thank you so much. That means you have no idea how much that means to us.
That means a lot to us, yes.
That means so much to us.
Keep the lights on for another week. Hooray!
Yay, lights. Lights are good because I can't see where I'm going. My little nosy hits the wall and stuff if I don't have lights on. So that's very wonderful. Yeah, so thank you so much. Shout out to Cano A. Pander. I hope to hug you tight with posies someday. So thank you for that.
Someday. All right, it's media time here on the BFFT podcast. All right, I'm going to start with you. I'll let you start. Threw you for a loop there, didn't I?
My loop is thrown.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been watching. Actually, let me start with.
He's been watching nothing, folks.
I've been watching nothing, and it's been amazing. Actually, so I read a little bit. So I continued reading Kyle Gould's The Prisoner's Release. That's the second book in his Vol trilogy. And The Prisoner's Release actually consists of 4 stories kind of within one book. And so I read the first of the 4, which is the longer of the 4. And it's really good. I recommend. I've been watching for just like I have been for the last few months, been watching old South Park episodes for lunchies. We finished. Did I talk about the show Elite? I must have talked about Elite at some point because we just finished season 3.
I don't think you've ever mentioned Elite.
Maybe I forgot.
No.
So Elite. So let me just shout out to the show Elite. It's a Netflix. I mean, it's really good. It starts out. It's kind of about some. I don't know if the word is preppy, but like rich kids that go to their high school and everything, and it's like a very upper class high school thing, seclusive. What's the word I'm looking for?
Exclusive.
X, not but exclusive. High school is kind of highbrow and everything, and there's drama and it's one of those things where the first half to maybe 3/4 of the season are okay. There's like rich drama and stuff, but it ends up actually getting really, really cool and intense and just beyond the drama. If you remember, I talked a few weeks ago about how we watched, what was that show?
I don't remember, but it's not important. Go along.
So there's this show I talked about before that was really, really great, but I can't remember the name. And it was about I said about how the first half of the first season was like, okay, this is good, but nothing special. But then it gets so good. It's the same type of thing with Elite. And something also notable about Elite is it's originally a Spanish thing. So it's filmed in Spain and it's so they're speaking Spanish, but you've got, the default on the Netflix that we have were English, not even with subtitles. And so they've overdubbed it. And it's like, they do a really good job. Like you can tell they're not speaking the same language, but like the English matches up with their lips so well that it's like, this actually works out really, it's like really amazing how well that actually matches up. So, and it's a really good show. Also been watching or finished the recent season, or not the newest, but a season of Happy Endings. You might remember me talking about that before. Really good, really funny. I really, really recommend it. And just a notable line from a recent episode we watched. So Max is the gay kind of frat boy. He's not a frat boy, but it's like the frat boy, gay frat boy-ish. I've talked about him a little bit.
Yeah, that kind of person. Yeah.
And notable line from him, just because I thought it was an awesome line, is he was just in thought and he was thinking, if Mary Tyler Moore married and then divorced Steven Tyler, then married and divorced Michael Moore, then got into a 3-way lesbian marriage with Demi Moore and Mandy Moore, would she go by the name Mary Tyler Moore, Moore? And so, notable line from that episode, which really
Mary
had
Tyler
nothing to do
Moore,
with anything.
Tyler More. Yes, I love it.
It's really good. I thought that was good.
Yeah.
And we so we started. Of course, you know Grace and Frankie, that show.
Yes.
Yes, so good. I love that show.
So good. Very good show.
For any fur that's out there, Grace and Frankie, so great. Big 4 names. The big 4 main characters are Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin, Sam Waterston, and Martin Sheen in their 70s, and it's so good.
It's such a good show.
And the acting is so great, right? I mean,
very good. I mean, well, they're all A-list actors.
They really, I mean, right. I mean, they know what they're doing. But the plot and the storyline and the acting and everything is just so great. Anyway, season 7 came out recently, beginning of this month, and that's the last season. And so we started watching it. So have you started season 7?
I have not. We've been so busy. We haven't. It's in our queue to watch. So
okay, yeah. So you're through season 6.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I highly recommend. This was at least for me and my honey. So very useful to watch just the last episode of season 6 again. Like I was so glad we watched that last episode again, because I would have been so lost if I started season 7 without watching it. Yeah. So any fur out there, I really recommend watch. It was really good. So, and we've watched the first 2 episodes. Now, right now, we get there and it's like, my honey's like, there's only 4 episodes in season 7. And I'm like, that's a short season.
Yeah.
I know.
No.
But I found out. And so we watched it and I didn't know until like the next day when I looked into it. This is just a teaser. The actual season 7 is the normal 16 episodes, and they've released 4, the first 4 now, and the last 12 they were released next year in 2022. So we just got 4. I know.
Oh, that's so mean.
It is mean, but at least we know there's something else, because I could just imagine the end of season or episode 4 comes up, and we're like, how is that an ending to? I mean, I haven't seen it yet, but I can just imagine. How is it an ending to? Like, he made an egg salad sandwich, and that's it. Yes. There's got to be more. So anyway, at least we know there's more.
Nice.
So that was very good. Also, a movie we watched called War with Grandpa. Have you heard of this?
I haven't heard of this one.
No, I hadn't either. It was filmed in 2022, and I didn't know until they came on, we were watching and I didn't know, how on the sleeves, this was a Netflix disc, and you know how in the descriptions they usually say the name of the actor and everything. They didn't say the name of the actor, so I didn't know who it was. So I was watching and it's like, I know you. And so in this movie, there's actually Robert De Niro and Christopher Walken and Cheech Marin. Yes, that's the Cheech of Cheech and Chong from the 80s. Yes.
Huh. Interesting combination.
So it is. Robert De Niro's the lead. He's actually the grandpa. Christopher Walken and Cheech Marin are kind of, side things. But I mean, it's good. I recommend it. It's silly, but it's also cute and funny. It's worth a watch. So it's about, this kid, he's 12 or something. His grandpa, aka Robert De Niro. Well, it's not known as that name in the show, but he has to, for whatever reason, move in with them. And that puts the kid in the attic because the grandpa gets his room, and Kid is very unhappy, and hence starts the war with Grandpa. And hilarity ensues. You might remember that phrase.
Yes.
Yes, it's actually really good and cute and funny, and I think it's worth a watch. And the ending is, I don't know if there is, but the ending definitely lends itself to a War with Grandpa Part 2. So we'll see.
There you go.
I haven't read about it, but
you always got to leave those things open.
And they did. That will be interesting to see if it comes out. Anyway, that's my watching for the past few weeks.
Well, good for you.
Before we go on to the next segment, I have to
do my media, though.
I'm so used to doing my media last that I forgot. Yes, please. I want to know what you've been up to the last few weeks.
Well, I have been watching. I binge watched Treadstone on Hulu.
I had not heard of this. What's this about?
It's based on a shadow organization from the Jason Bourne novels and movies. I don't know if you've ever watched or read those.
You might have talked about this before. Yeah.
And they Jason Bourne came from a organization called Treadstone. It was a black ops for the CIA. So they built an entire series around it. Now there's only one series. There's only one season on Hulu, and each episode is a cliffhanger to the next episode.
Oh,
and
of course.
Even the
just
last
like 24 or Jason Bourne stuff.
Right. Even the last one, they said hello, and then they went to black, and then the music started, and I was like, okay, the next episode will go on, and it's like that was the last episode, and there's no season 2 yet. I'm like, so
that's an
hell yeah,
I feel your pain there. My cow!
I mean, this show was so good that there was when I say you binged watch it, I mean I literally binged watched it in 2. It's like 18 episodes, and I binged watched it in 2 days. It's like I'm watching it. It's like I know it's 11 o'clock, and the next one's only 40 minutes. That puts me at 11:40. I can still get up in time for work.
You got to do the math.
You got to do the math. Yep. So
it's kind of like how you might remember I binge watched Beastars in like 2 days.
Yeah, no, I haven't watched Beastars yet. I have to get to that.
Yeah, make sure. And actually, I'm glad this came up because I remember when we were talking about this before, and you had asked if you could watch season 2 of Beastars without watching season 1, and I said no. And then you said because of the nuances, and I agreed with that. And I realized no, that's not right. It's actually not nuances. It's like storyline. You gotta watch season 1.
You gotta know season 1 to know what's going on.
Not just the nuances. You will miss so much. So you gotta watch season 1.
Yeah. And then Archer. I'm Archer.
You are Archer.
Season 12 came out of Archer.
12?
Hulu. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't realize they were. I thought they were on like 4 or 5.
Oh no! This is season 12 came out.
Okay.
It's been on for a long time. We're watching that, and finally, Hulu has a new series called "Only Murders in the Building."
Murders in the Building.
Only Murders in the Building. Yes, and
don't let the puppy in.
No, it stars Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez.
Really?
Yeah.
So another like 70-year-old reunion show or
kind
something?
Of thing. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we've got a storyline going on here.
So they are 3 people who are obsessed with a true crime podcast. They live in New York City, and they have a murder in their New York apartment.
Is this our podcast?
It's pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
It's not our podcast they're obsessed with. No, it would have been funny if it was. It
would have been awesome.
So they have a murder in their apartment complex, in their apartment building, which is a very old apartment building in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And because they are true crime podcast listeners, they think they can solve this murder because the police deemed it a suicide. So in true Martin Short, Steve Martin fashion, they decide to start their own podcast about their investigation.
Oh, okay.
So they're doing this podcast. And one of the lines was, well, we should branch out and we could do other podcasts about other murders. And Steve Martin says, no, only Murders in the Building, which is where the name of the show came from. So
I see.
Yeah. So,
that's awesome. I might have to check that out.
It's a dramedy. It's called Only Murders in the Building. It's a dramedy, so it's kind of funny and it's kind of dark at times, And in fact, Steve Martin plays a character who used to play a detective on television. He plays, as an ex-actor.
Oh, okay.
And so they see
kind of like BoJack Horseman.
Yeah. So they see the murder scene and they like run out of the room. They're like, "Oh my God, I've seen so many fake ones. I've never seen a real one."
It's a very Stephen and Martin Short thing.
Very Steve Martin, I think. Yeah. And then today I read another chapter of Furcasting Heretic. So
nice. Nice. That's very exciting.
So I think
I was just listening to one of our Pup 10. Okay. I was remembering, I was listening to an episode the other day where you were talking about how you had like binge read like 10 chapters or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, cool.
So
nice.
Yeah, I had a lot of time to read on vacation last week too. So I read a number of chapters last week. So there you go.
It's exciting. Woo.
All right. Now you have something before we get to furries in the news.
Yes. And this has to do with the fact that, I as we talked about, I've been pent up. I've got a lot of stuff. So I figured some of it would be best just exploded out in 5 quick puns. So I think I'll do that. I hadn't done a 5 quick puns in a while, and here's a good chance to do that. So I'll just do that.
All right.
Are we ready?
Ready.
Well, Picard says, I just saw a wolf on the ship. Riker says, where? Picard says, no, the regular kind. Mr. Smith says, Doctor, I am shrinking. What should I do? The doctor says, you're just going to have to be a little patient. The teacher says, give me a sentence which includes all of the words defense, defeat, and detail. Charlie says, when a horse jumps over defense, defeat goes first and then detail. Bury me with old records, it'll be my vinyl resting place. And finally, I was walking the jungle and saw a lizard. On his hind legs, he was telling jokes. I turned to a local tribesman and said, this lizard is really funny. The tribesman replied, that's not a lizard, he's a stand-up comedian. And there it is, all you furs.
There it is, all you furs. Absolutely. Which takes us up to that wonderful section that everyone missed last week because you weren't here. It is time for Furries in the News.
Furries in the news. Furries in the news. Furries in the news. Furries in the news. Furries in the news. Furries in the news. Furries in the news. Furries in the news. Furries in the news. Furries in the news. Furries in the news. Furries in the news. Furries in the news. Now, did you recognize that?
That was Furries in the News by Taebyn.
No, that was the intro to Furries in the News Rhapsody.
Oh.
Is this the real life? Furries in the news. So anyway, I tried.
Well, and after all that, I have no news to talk about.
Okay. Well, the news is this pup is such a bad singer that no fur could get the melody of Bohemian Rhapsody out of that. So
yeah,
okay.
Well, no news is good news. Or if you go to the zoo and you see the news, they might have news.
I don't even know what just happened. What did just happen?
Do you know what a gnu is? It's like an antelope. It's like an antelope. It's spelled G-N-U-S. Yeah.
I did not catch that.
Yeah. There's news in the news. There's news in the news today, ladies and gentlemen, and furs. The news are making the news. No, I have no news about news. All right. But we do have upcoming events. So it's kind of like Phoebe BBB in her new canoe canal. Anyway, there.
What? What? I'm not even going to try.
So there was this gal named Phoebe, and her middle name was the middle initial was B, and her last name was BB. So she was Phoebe BBB.
Phoebe BBB. Tyler. Yeah. Mary Tyler Moore. Tyler Moore.
Right, and so she wanted to go into the canoe rental business, and she made a canal, and it was a new canal, and she had new canoes. So it was Phoebe BBB and her new canoe canal.
I believe that. I totally believe that.
So
there you go.
This weekend,
all you first, you heard it here first.
And last, because no one will listen to it again.
Hopefully last.
Yeah. This weekend, as we release this episode, we have Furry Migration and Furvana taking place. So at this very same weekend in 2 different states, we have Furry Migration in Minnesota. I know. You don't want to have the same state because then it would be the Furry Migration Furvana. And Furvana is in Washington State. So
and and Furvana is on the actual coast, so it's and also it's like it's
Ocean
hard
shores,
to get there. Ocean shores, right? And it's hard to get there. It's like there's no planes that land close to it, so it's like I don't really know. This pup hasn't been, and it sounds like a lot of work for this pup to go. So I haven't been, and I don't know if I'll go in the near future. But it'll be interesting to hear how it goes. I've heard our very own Cassidy Civet has gone, but I've heard that it is it's actually really good. So maybe I'm just a distance-ish for not.
Well, if we could go if we wanted to drive it. So, I mean, we've driven to cons before. We've driven to Reno. Yeah. We've driven to Spokane. We've driven to San Jose.
I don't know if I want sand in my fur, though.
Sand in your fur. Sounds like the name of a book. Sand in My Fur by Taebyn.
Sand in My Fur by Barely Normal. Okay, so now you have to write a book, apparently.
How about a poem? Okay,
we'll go with that. Start with a poem.
Start with a poem and branch it into a novel and a movie,
And then a movie. Look how easy of a progression. You go poem, you go novel, you go movie. That's all there is to it. No problem.
That's all there is to it. I'm going to make a note. I will try and make up a poem about sand in my fur. The thoughts are rolling already.
All right. So,
next weekend, September 17th through the 19th, is Furry Takeover in Fontana Dam, North Carolina. Fontana Dam, North Carolina. But Furry Takeover is a camping-style convention located in the mountains, and it will rely on your transportation in order to get around to the resort for different events. There's no vehicles there, which means you have to have like bicycles or skateboards or things like that.
Or you could have a movie projector that you ride on.
You could. Yeah. So there's rivers and lakes and driving roads and much more stuff to do. So use your whatever. I don't know. So there we go.
Use your movie projector. Ziggy, I want to know what you think about what just happened.
Yes, Ziggy, let us know. There you go. And that's what's coming up for upcoming events. As we get closer and closer, we're getting closer and closer to BLFC in just about a month. So watch for everything coming up. Yeah.
When this release, it'll be about 5 weeks or so. Yeah.
Yeah, so about a month. Do you have any upcoming events that you know of?
The only one that I know of is the one where I am stupid.
Yeah, no, you're not stupid. You're not
stupid.
So
I guess I don't know about any upcoming events. Okay. Good for me. Yay. We're all right.
Clear. Good for you. But you know what? I think you should have some math for us. It's been a while since you've mathed us. So please math us.
I'm going to math you. And there's actually
Johnny
going to be a little
us.
bit... So there's actually going to be a little bit of science involved too in this.
Ooh, math and science.
It's actually really interesting. And actually, before I tell you about that, I want to do, since this is the math thing, so it's a little more of the educational-y thing.
Yes.
I have a joke that should earn some CEUs.
Oh, a joke that earns CEUs.
Yeah. And then I'll get into the math. But since we're in the education-y thing, I thought I would wait till now to tell this CEU joke. Are you ready?
Okay. Uh-huh.
It took me some time and looking up on the Googles to actually get it. But you might do it.
Yeah.
A malapropism walks into a bar looking for all intensive purposes like a wolf in cheap clothing, muttering epitaphs and casting dispersions on his magnificent other who takes him for granted.
Mm-hmm. Those are all malaprops.
They were.
Yes.
Okay, you got it. Any fur out there that even knows, I had to look up the word malaprop, so that's why I didn't even know what.
Yeah.
So for any fur that got that, you got your between that and the other half a CEU thing, you now got your 3 CEUs for this pupisode.
Yeah. So and if you're gonna, it's important though that if you're gonna start a zoo, you need 2 pandas, a brown bear, and a grizzly. That's the bare minimum.
That's the bare minimum.
Anyway, what's your math?
So right. Actually, speaking of, the science thing actually gets into zoo-esque. Well, you'll see. Anyway.
Zoology.
So in geometry.
Yes.
So a branch of mathematics, of course, there's this thing called sphere packing. And that's just, you've got a sphere or circle packing.
Okay.
Yeah, just get it done.
Pack that circle.
Pack that. So this is about, if you think circles or spheres, whatever, the idea is that you want to pack as many spheres or circles in your space, minimizing the amount of wasted space. So for example, if you think circles, you could take a 4x5, so 20 circles, put them in a 4x5 rectangular grid, just stacked up on each other. Okay. But you're actually wasting a lot of space there in between the circles, right? You've got these kind of inward facing squares or diamonds, however you want to describe them. Yes. Now, if you take, so that would be called a rectangular packing of the circles. Now, if you take the second row and just offside it by a little bit so that the top of a circle fits in between two of the circles above it, so now you've minimized that space, right? You've taken away the... And so you do that for the other two lines of circles, and you've actually minimized the amount of wasted space with those 20 circles. Yes. And so this is called the problem of sphere packing and circle packing is doing this type of thing. And so one might come along and think, is there some other crazy, weird way that you could put some spheres together that minimizes the space even more, like do a better job? It was actually not proved until the 1940s that what I just said, which is actually called a hexagonal packing of the circles, does the best job. And so then you can imagine you can do this with spheres, a box, a rectangular, three-dimensional rectangular grid of spheres. And indeed, of course, the same thing. But of course, then the question comes up, well, what if I had like a triangle? What's the best way to sphere pack into a triangle, take all these spheres of the same, radius and minimize that. And so the idea of the problem of sphere packing is just take a generic overall shape, take a bunch of spheres of the same size, and what's the best way to pack them in there to minimize the amount of space wasted. And this is actually a really interesting geometrical problem that's been solved for a lot of cases for 2 and 3 dimensions. You can then think, well, what about 4 dimensions? Well, you can't see this, but you can like just do geometry and just do like the math computations on it to try and see how that might work. 4 dimensions, 5 dimensions, 10. And actually, this was an open problem for many dimensions until actually really recently. And I'm not sure, but I think like dimension 1,000, it might still be open. I forget, but this is like actually really an interesting thing for people interested in geometry. And there's applications to this too. I mean, you can imagine being efficient with packing things in like a marble company or something. You can imagine different applications. So there's lots of applications. And it turns out though that it's not just an interesting math thing. This is a thing in nature. So you might remember several, I forget how many episodes ago, that we talked about bees and why they have hexagonal, what are they called? Hives.
Honeycombs.
Honeycombs. We talked about that. So I prefer to go back and listen. It was very interesting talking about bees and why they have hexagonal honeycombs and how that's the best and amazing. Anyway, so it turns out that the emperor penguins... So a lot of this has occurred in nature. So this is actually really cool and interesting, something I found out recently. The emperor penguin is a breed of penguin that lives in Antarctica. And in Antarctica, on the ices and polar where they live, the temperatures can get down to negative 76 degrees Fahrenheit. Which is really cold, right?
Really cold, yes.
Really cold. These emperor penguins, they live there, and they are 4 feet tall and weigh, on average, about 50 pounds. The females, so they have eggs and stuff because, of course, they got to have babies and all that stuff. So they have their eggs, and then the females, they leave for a few months in winter. I don't know if they go off to have like a penguin tea party for a few months or something, but they leave. And so the males incubate the eggs. Okay. Yes. And they do so, and I've seen videos on. It's really cute. I've seen videos of this on YouTube and stuff. How they waddle around with little eggs on their feet. They've got a little pouch and stuff. It's really cute. Anyway, actually, getting back to there's a connection here.
There's a connection. Is there?
There is actually a connection. So we've got all these male emperor penguins that need to take care of their eggs and keep them warm because it's really cold outside, and an egg isn't going to hatch in negative 76 degree weather.
No, it's going to freeze.
They, of course, have a habit or whatever they do, where they get together and form a nice bunch together and make it all warm and everything.
Okay.
And then in the center, it actually gets up to 70 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So they do a really good job of keeping things warm. Now, if you think about it, if it's not done right, still all this, there's winds and stuff. All this cold air can get down in between them. And it's not going to, matter if they're huddled together if there's too much space. So guess what? These emperor penguins are smart enough that they do this fear packing problem. In that, the way in which they huddle together is in not a rectangular pattern, but the hexagonal pattern that I talked about. So they actually know how to minimize the area between them so that the wind that gets in between them is minimized and they can keep everything all nice and warm.
Wow. Even
more so, and this is beyond the math, this is just a sciencey thing I found out. They are so smart that, so you've got this huddle, this hexagonal, whatever, rectangular, however you want to think about it, huddle of fluff penguins together.
Yes.
Well, on one side, at a given time, at one side, that the wind is going to be blowing at them. So that side is going to be insanely cold. Those poor little penguin eggs don't have a chance. Well, guess how the penguins deal with that? One at a time, from the cold end, one at a time, one of the penguins will come along with their egg and waddle around to the other side and get in not just any formation, but make sure to get in the right row so that they keep the hexagonal pattern going. And they do that one at a time. And so they constantly keep everything warm and going on. And they just know to do this. So there's math, there's science. This is so amazing. I actually cannot believe how awesome all this is. And that is my math for this week.
Is there a video on YouTube about this at all?
I bet there is. I haven't looked.
There's got to be.
There's got to be. This was just an article I read about.
That would be so cute to see.
It would be so cute to see them like moving around. I'll make a note. Now look for this. And then as the past today for next week, I'll share the YouTube video.
Well, you know what? We've taken up quite a bit of time. I'm going to tell you one joke.
Okay.
And then we can go to the closing. How does that? Unless you want to tell a joke. You've told a lot of jokes, though, tonight.
I think there's been a lot of puppiness here. I think we shouldn't allow me to do anymore.
No, I don't think so. Do you happen to know what the difference between the bird flu and the swine flu is?
This sounds like a great scientific exploration.
It is.
No, what is the difference between the swine flu and the bird flu?
Well, with the bird flu, you need treatment. And with the swine flu, you're going to need ointment.
But boom, crickets.
Yes, absolutely.
So
Taebyn,
we'll
guess
just
what?
end on that.
We made it. We made it to the end. Hooray, to the end once again. It's been so great having you back on the show.
Yay.
It's been so wonderful to our listeners, and thanks to all of you for listening and being out there. You can't be anyone else than who you are, right? Or can you?
That's actually true.
Can you be somebody else that you're not? I don't know that you can. Anyway, I hope all the future. Wow, I can't speak tonight. I hope. There's many hope. Bob Hope. That there are all the creatures in the Podiverse enjoyed our time together. I know I enjoyed having them listen. So to all our friends, all our furs, all our creatures, I say Moobarkfluff and stay furry.
And yes, all you furs out there, Moobarkfluff, thank you so much. If you listened this far, I hope you've had a good time. I know we have. It's been really great seeing Barely again and barking at all you fur fluffs all again. It's been a good time. So I hope you also have enjoyed it. It's just been great. I hope you learned a lot. And if you have, that means you learned things that aren't true, except for the math. Because, like the hillbillies and stuff. Yeah, that didn't happen. Anyway, but yes, thank you so much for that listening. All you furs that have supported us. Our new supporter, Kano A. Pander, thanks again. Shout out to you and any of you other furs that support us, even just by listening. So until next week, I say Moobarkfluff, Bark at you next time. Have a good week. Stay the fluff.
Barely Furcasting is an Injured Nerves studio production and is found on all major podcast platforms or can be heard directly at barelyfurcasting.com. The opinions expressed here are those of the hosts and their guests, and no commercial compensation was granted. The Furcast is produced, recorded, and directed by me, Barely Normal, aka Mike Began, and is edited by myself and our associate editors, Rain Raccoon and Bixby Wolf. Opening and closing theme music, as well as some interstitial music, was created for Injured Nerves Productions for the use on the podcast by our music associate, Regday, with Damian Tanuki. If you would like to hear more music by Regday, you can search for Tweezerbeak on Bandcamp or Hoop Loop Tunes on SoundCloud. Other interstitial and background music by Shane Ivers through silvermansound.com, Gator Tots on soundcloud.com, and the YouTube Free Use Library. You can send us a message via email at barelyfurcasting@gmail.com or on our Telegram chat at BFFTchat, on Twitter, on our Facebook page, or on the barelyfurcasting.com webpage. The show is supported through donations at ko-fi.com/barelyfurcasting or through Patreon at patreon.com/barelyfurcasting. Thanks for listening. We hope you come back and listen next week.